Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're going to break down the really powerful system that sits at the heart of the United States government. We're talking about the three branches, and we're going to explore how they work together, and sometimes against each other, to create the laws that shape the entire nation.
I mean, it's a great question, right? It really gets to the core of how a country works. You could have this amazing, brilliant idea, but how does that idea actually travel the long road to become a real law? Well, that's the journey we're going to map out right now.
So the easiest way to think about it is like a team. You've got three main players, and each one has a super important, very specific job. But here's the genius part. The system is designed so they have to work together, but it also lets them challenge each other. It's kind of like a built-in safety feature to make sure no one part of the government gets too powerful.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Every single law has to start somewhere, usually as just an idea. And its very first stop, its first big test, is with the legislative branch. These are the folks we elect to be our lawmakers, and their main job is to hammer out ideas, debate them, and draft them into actual laws.
So the main job of the legislative branch, which you probably know as Congress, is to take all those ideas and turn them into formal proposals. We call these bills. So anytime you hear on the news that a bill is being debated, that's Congress, right there, doing its most important work.
But, Congress isn't just one big room of people. Nope. It's actually split into two different parts, two chambers. You've got the Senate and you've got the House of Representatives. And this isn't an accident. It was designed this way on purpose. It forces every potential law to get looked at from a bunch of different angles before it can move forward.
And this is where you really see two different kinds of representation in action. In the Senate, every single state gets the exact same power, 2 senators. Doesn't matter if it's a huge state or a tiny one. But the House of Representatives, that's totally different. It represents people based on population. So a state with a ton of people, say California, gets a lot more representatives than a state with way fewer people, like Wyoming. Yep, it's that simple. 2 senators for each of the 50 states. That gets us to a nice round 100 in the Senate. All the states represented as equal partners.
And then you have the House, with its 435 members, reflecting the population of the country much more directly. And here's the key. For a bill to have any shot of becoming a law, it has to pass in both of these places. It has to win over the Senate and the House.
Okay, so let's say a bill has made it. It survived the debates, it got enough votes, and it passed through both the House and the Senate. You'd think we're done, right? Not even close. It's not a law yet. Now it has to face its next big hurdle.
And that hurdle is the executive branch. This is the part of government led by the president. Now, its main job is to enforce the laws that are already on the books, but it also plays the super critical role as a gatekeeper for new laws. Essentially, the president holds the power of the final yes or no.
And it's actually a pretty dramatic moment if you think about it. A bill that has been argued over, changed, and voted on by 535 members of Congress, all of that work lands on the desk of just one person. And that one person gets to make the final call.
So, there are really only 2 ways this can go. If the president signs the bill, boom, it's officially a law. But if the president vetoes it, which is a cool old word that basically just means I forbid, then the bill is rejected and gets sent right back to where it came from, Congress. And when we say the executive branch enforces the laws, we're not just talking about the president. Oh no, the executive branch is absolutely massive. Just look at that number, around 5 million people. These are the federal workers in all the different departments and agencies that actually carry out the laws every single day. We're talking about everyone from your postal carrier and park rangers to food inspectors and diplomats.
But wait, there's more. The journey is still not over. Even after a bill gets passed by Congress and signed by the president, there's one last stop. One more branch that acts as the ultimate guardian of the rules.
Right. So this branch is different. It doesn't make the laws, and it doesn't enforce them. Its job is to review them. Think of it like a referee in a game. It looks at a new law and asks 2 really big questions. Is this fair? And most importantly, does this follow the country's ultimate rulebook, the Constitution? So this whole branch is basically a giant pyramid of courts and judges. A case might start in a lower federal court, but the really big, important ones can work their way all the way up to the very top. And at the top sits the U.S. Supreme Court. Their entire job is to interpret what the law actually means and decide how it applies in the real world.
And get this, at the very peak of that pyramid, there are just 9 judges. We call them justices. And these 9 people have the absolute final say on whether a law is constitutional or not.
Their decisions can keep a law in place for decades, or they can strike it down completely.
Okay, so let's zoom back out for a second and put all these pieces together. We've seen that each branch has its own special job, but the real magic, the real genius of the system, is how they all interact with each other.
And here it is, the ultimate cheat sheet. The legislative branch, they make the laws. The executive branch, they enforce the laws. And the judicial branch, they review the laws. Make, enforce, review. It's a really simple idea, but it creates an incredibly powerful structure.
And this really gets to the why of it all. This whole thing is called the separation of powers, and it's designed to make sure no single part of the government gets too powerful. For instance, Congress can pass a law, sure, but the president can veto it. But then, Congress can turn around and override that veto if they have a big enough vote. And even then, after all that, the judicial branch can step in and say, nope, this law is unconstitutional. It's this constant, intentional push and pull for power.
So, we'll leave you with a question to think about. In our world today, which is changing so fast, what do you think is the most important job this system of shared power has? It's a delicate balance, and it's constantly being tested, which makes understanding how it works more important than ever. What do you think?